So we are joined by somebody who's had their finger on the pulse of Chia maybe more than anybody else ever. So Steve, he has been doing This Week in Chia, has through doing the newsletter pretty much had to know what has happened in Chia every week ever since he's been doing it. So I'm very interested in sort of where we're at from a sentiment perspective because Chia's had its ups, it's had its downs, and lately there's a lot of excitement. We've got Permuto that is ostensibly launching, later this summer. Maybe we'll see gaming yet this year, maybe next year. Who knows? I'm not trying to throw shade on that one, but I'm just like generally interested in Chia gaming because it's been in the hopper for so long, and we've heard that it's coming out. So hopefully it does come out soon. But if it's part of the summer Permuto, or maybe it gets delayed because they're working on something even better. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. Well, happy to have Steve join the show. Steve, a man who needs no introduction, but maybe you could give us an introduction anyway.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I don't know much about an introduction. I have been in the community for probably since about main launch, I guess, and farmer, NFT creator once that came around. And at some point, I got
maybe one of the premier NFT creators. If there is anybody who's done more collections, I don't even know who it would be. I mean, certainly we've got Monkey Zoo and Drac, but they're kind of, they're one trick. You've done many takes, many different NFT collections.
Yeah, that for me is just more like a creative outlet. I don't even have expectations that they'll ever sell really so much as I just want to do something that settles that creativity part or whatever. But yeah, and then at some point I got a wild hair and decided I was going to take all these tweets I was doing and just put them onto a web page, and then that led into This Week in Chia. So I've been doing that for 2.5 years or whatever, I guess.
It feels like since the inception of Chia. I mean, it's like I know that it's a very nice thing when we get featured on This Week in Chia. So thank you for finding some shows that you wanted to feature in the newsletter.
You can always let me know if you feel like something should be on there that I didn't cover, but I mean, it is called This Week in Chia, so I tend to only focus on Chia for the most part. So you guys do.
And Lucas, I don't know. We usually have almost a weekly Chia take, I think, don't we? At least
I was going to say, is there an episode that goes by when I don't mention Chia? Sometimes sometimes I try not to, so that but I'm often thinking Chia fixes this.
Yeah, what we're sitting over here, like keeping hope alive for Chia, right, Lucas? I love that turn of phrase. I feel like that's kind of our take on Chia.
Yeah, well, keep many keep hope alive, but there's a lot to hope for. But I sometimes wonder when the rest of crypto and the world more broadly begins to understand what we all know is possible with Chia. But Steve, you said 2.5 years of This Week in Chia,
right?
And it just you were what were you tweeting about whenever what was on your mind? Because 2.5 years ago, I think This Week in Chia has always been a part of the Chia community since I came to the community. What were you talking about whenever you were writing these tweets?
Well, I mean, I was mostly retweeting news, Chia news, since mainnet and what was that, 21, 2000, or like April of 21 or whatever. And so, and then in January of 23, I just decided I was tweeting a lot. It was what it ended up being. And I was like, I want to put this onto a web page. And I actually think I started a couple weeks into the new year, but I went back and like collected them all and like started this website from January 1st.
Sometimes tech people are a little bit of analytics and metrics junkies. Would you consider yourself thus? Like, how much do you watch the numbers? Like, do you see the ebbs and the flows of how much people are looking at your stuff? The This Week in Chia, is it a subscription newsletter, email? Is it just the web page? How much do you look at the numbers, and how do the numbers look lately?
I have not historically looked at numbers a whole lot until maybe this year. I updated the site with what was the name of that tool? I added the tool
Not
on
Google Analytics, is it? That's one of the
Plausible.
Plausible.
Plausible is what I lost the Zoom. Anyway, yeah, so I added Plausible to it so I can see some metrics now. There it is. And Sundays are big days. So I guess people have come to understand on Sundays to sort of do like a refresh and start a new week. And I do a tweet storm and kind of, I use Grok actually to say, pick me 7 tweets, from the whole week. And I sort of focus on those and just do a tweet thread once a week. And so I can see the metrics on that where there's a spike in my engagement. What do they call it? Impressions on Sundays. But I haven't. Your show is actually much bigger than This Week in Chia, really. So.
Well, I mean, we appreciate that take. So, I mean, I'm definitely a bit of a metrics guy. I like to look at, how things ebb and flow. And we've definitely had some Chia takes that have been well beyond what we ever thought, how much traction they would get. So, from my perspective, there's still a lot of excitement about Chia. I think that there's still a lot of people who really care about it and really want to see something big come out of Chia. So I think that there's still a lot of excitement that this could be the next thing, but we're all still kind of waiting for, well, what is going to be the big thing that launches on Chia? We certainly have had huge wins, definitely interesting projects that have, come about that really haven't been replicated anywhere. And I would say the Climate Action Data Trust is still just like a massive one that sort of a thing just doesn't exist anywhere else. And even though Chia is being used and it's out there as, real world assets and all this stuff, it still hasn't caught on, in my opinion, as far as like the rank and the file and the retail mass adoption, even though we had hundreds of thousands of people that were really interested in it when we had mainnet launch and we had this huge coin price. And I think that's because, crypto is still maybe in this world of token go up, coin go up, whatever. And since, in Chia, we haven't had this massive run up yet, we still haven't seen one of these, will everybody pile into Chia? And I think that there is a day that's going to come where all of a sudden that's going to happen. And those of us that have been in this community for a really long time are going to find ourselves swamped and crowded with people who suddenly, have gotten wise to this. And there have even been some interesting takes out there. Did you hear Gene saying that they want to buy back the pre-farm?
Yeah, some of that pre-farm that they've been having to sell off. Yeah.
So they sold high and now they're buying low. I guess that's the classic buyback.
I mean, it's not a bad idea, I guess. You mentioned sentiment earlier, though, and you were talking about the early days. I feel like the sentiment in that era, like initial main launch era, it was get rich quick. That's the massive amount of people that were there. That's all they really cared about, and weren't necessarily there for the tech, which is, I think, pretty much most of the community that you see hanging around still now is they would have always been there for more than just get rich quick. And that's kind of the way I have felt the whole time. Honestly, for me, is more about having fun. And I guess I have more of a cautious sentiment. Like I didn't put so much investment into it that I couldn't pay my bill each month because of energy, So I just I don't really care what the price is at the moment. I feel like in the future it's going to be better, and so I just stick with it. And
Well, I've wondered what, because I certainly have that impression with, if not in the Chia community more broadly in crypto, there's this a get rich quick is a nice and kind way of describing the attitude. Um, I've never thought that you had that attitude. What when you first saw Chia, what attracted you to it?
So my introduction was I knew who Bram Cohen was for many years. I guess probably since the BitTorrent days, and when Twitter first launched in like 06, 07, whenever that was, I wasn't immediately here, but it was pretty soon, like around 07 or 08 is when I joined, and I immediately went out and followed just all the programmers that I could find and knew about, and he was one of them. So I've followed him on Twitter for a long time, and then I heard Modern Finance podcasts with Kevin Rose, and he interviewed his second episode was an interview with Bram Cohen and talking about Chia and this blockchain cryptocurrency, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm in on that. Because I already knew that I missed my Bitcoin time where came out and I was like, that sounds kind of shady or sketchy. I don't know if I want to spend time with that. And of course, obviously, I missed that boat. So that was pretty much how I heard about it. And from day one, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna jump in on this. So.
Yeah, and as far as the get rich quick, I don't know that in Chia it was really possible to do it quick, but there were definitely a lot of people from the early days who got rich. I mean, I can think of at least 24 people that were made millionaires because they did the smart thing, and that was to sell Chia the instant you got your hands on it. If you were doing that from day one as a strategy, you definitely made millions, but it wasn't quick because you had to plot. Plotting was hard, and you said you farm, so I suppose you're looking forward to the new plot format and replotting. I mean, that's something that's on all of our minds, right? I mean, my take on that is that's a daunting experience. I remember when I plotted my 1.5 petabyte farm, and it was a big undertaking. It was a massive effort.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not looking forward to that, but I'm definitely going to do it.
Yeah. So you use the phrase "looking forward to." In my mind, that means you're like, you see that as a positive. I don't know that I would enjoy.
I'm using it as I see it coming, and oh my God, I can't believe I have to do that. Ugh.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. So I am looking forward to it in the sense that actually I have a petabyte or whatever unplotted, like just blank hard drives right now waiting that I'll plot first, and then after those are done, I'll slowly replot the 1 petabyte that I have currently. So
and I mean, as far as plotting goes, I mean, you know me, we're doing evergreen, so as far as plotting goes, I've been around the block on plotting. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's as far as our crew, we probably plotted more than anybody else. And I say the we is the royal we, because it was more one of the other team members of ours that was more responsible for that than anybody else. But I certainly pulled my share of drives and, was around the server room. And I also plotted my own farm. So no stranger to it personally.
Yeah, I never plotted with GPUs, so this will be a new learning curve for me too. So,
do you have a 4090 sitting there in the wings, or what's your graphics card?
I don't have a 4090, but I have a P4000 or something.
A4000?
A4000, and I have two actually, and I got them from buying existing hardware. So I bought like a HP workstation, and it had a pretty it didn't have a 4090, but it had a decent card in it. Yeah. So I think that was the A4000. But I have another one that's like a P something, and I forget. I am not up on hardware really, so I fumble my way through that. It can be frustrating sometimes.
Well, it's a completely different experience to plot with GPUs just because it's so much faster. I mean, the whole take on it is that instead of having to wait, you pretty much connect it to a drive and it's plotted so fast that you almost are just like shuttling drives more than you're doing anything else. So it'll be a different experience for sure, unlike the olden days where you loaded up a bunch of plots and it was mostly in transferring stuff over. That was the kind of the bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am looking forward to that. That'll be one of my projects coming up.
And you mentioned, or at least we talked about the different NFT collections that you've done over time. Do you feel like the generative AI over time has gotten better? Do you feel like you've gotten better at it, or are you kind of hit a point where I can do everything that I want and it doesn't really matter if it gets any better because it now, if I want to make a superhero, I can make a superhero. If I want to make something else, I just go in and make the thing that I want, and it's pretty much at my disposal. Is it I summon things from my imagination and it just makes what I want, or do you still have to fight with it to get it to do what you want?
I still have to fight with it, but I do feel like the quality is improving drastically. The main one that I've been using historically has been Midjourney, and it's certainly improved, like vastly improved in quality over the 2 or 3 years or however long it's been. But it does, to me, it seems like it's moving towards trying to get photorealistic quality, and that's not really the look that I'm going for. I mean, if I do like amateur photography as well, so if I want a photograph of something, I'll go take a photograph. That's not what I'm using. That's not my use case for AI. I want it to create more art type. What am I trying to say? Like illustrations that I can't do myself, but I can maybe prompt and try to come up with a look that I like.
Yeah, like with the character that we've got on the screen, your avatar currently, this is kind of a take on The Incredibles or something like that.
Right. And it's a collection called the Moon Boys, and it was sort of a humorous. It's supposed to be humorous take on crypto bros, always talking about going to the moon or whatever. And so that's kind of where that led. And every character in that collection, there's a moon in the background. Like I intentionally made sure that there was a moon. So yeah, but that style of art, that's I can't do that myself. So yeah, that's and actually to be honest, that one was created with Grok. So that's one. I've done 1 or 2 collections using X's Grok to create the images too. So
I've used a bunch of the different AIs, and I actually found that Grok has given me better results than almost anything else that I've used. And sometimes I've been reaching for that one just because I have it, because I have a blue check mark and I get it with it. So it's a bundled kind of free thing for me. And I guess X has a little bit of a lock-in on my usage of AI. I've tried Copilot and ChatGPT, and man, it just feels like those. I have a harder time wrestling what I want from it, whereas Grok seems to have a little bit better take, a little bit better continuity of thought.
So yeah, so my approach, I guess, on that is Grok is great for a few images, like 1 or 2 images, but the reason why Midjourney for me is so strong is it ties into Discord. And so I run a Discord server and I can create a bunch of hidden channels that nobody can see except me. And then I use that for my project management stuff. I throw in the Midjourney bot into a private channel that I named for the collection I'm building. And I can just use that channel, and it's got the whole history of all the art that I created. And so for me, the tie-in with Midjourney, the tie-in from Midjourney to Discord, it really helps for like building a full collection, the project. That's just the way I've been using it.
Oh, so Discord almost acts like a workspace. It saves
Right.
everything you've got, and so when you want to return to it, or if you ever did, it's all just loaded up, and you don't have to. Where did I store this in my file system and try to build the context? To me, that's been one of the hardest things about using AI is actually trying to get it to the point where it can do something that I need, and then if I ever have to rework it or do something again, it's getting that context loaded up again is such a nightmare.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Yeah, so I have like one private channel I call a junk drawer or something like that, junk I think, and I just try all kinds of new stuff in there. When I find something I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, I want to explore that more, I'll go create another private channel that I call like a name for the collection, and then I start in there with that prompt and start building. Yeah. But I just overall in general, I do think it has improved quite a bit, and I'm happy with it. But it does sometimes feel like it's trying to replicate photography, and I mean, it's not that that's not impressive. It's just not what my interest and focus is on myself.
And Steve, do you have a? Are you a fan of fantasy, or where do you? Because to me that's sort of where your collections lean towards. But maybe it's just because I see your PFP on Twitter all the time.
I definitely am a fan of fantasy. If you're talking about like fiction, like reading, I've been a massive reader my whole life. Science fiction, fantasy, probably my favorite genre, I would say. I even have a goal of reading 52 books every year, which I've done for close to 20 years now, I think. Not
Well,
quite.
I'm going to give you a little heads up that there's going to be some stuff coming along on this channel that I think you're going to be interested in. As far as fantasy and art, have you ever tried to take a crack at your favorite book, whatever, and saying, can I summon from my imagination what I think this stuff looks like, and putting together some art for books that you like?
This is so weird that you asked me this question. Yes, I have done that. I am currently rereading the Dresden Files, which is I think there's 17 books so far, and there's another book coming in January. But yeah, since I'm rereading it, I have a collection of like 24 or 25 images of characters from the books, and I reached out to them to see if they would give me a license, or I could get a license to just mint the NFTs. And I'm sure that answer is going to be no. But yeah, I did go through that process just like within the last 2 weeks.
Well, even if you don't get a license to do it, I mean, making fan art for stuff, I mean, unless you're trying to commercialize it, and I don't.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
they
if
say
you put it
no,
up,
I'll give it away for free, just because I like it. But yeah,
see, I think that's kind of a cool idea, because I mean, to me, generative AI, if it could do anything, I really hope that it can speed up animation. And I don't think that the right thing to do here is to have the AI summon the characters, although I think you're doing a fantastic job with imagining what you think things can look like, and then using the AI to sort of do the Vulcan mind mend to create the thing you're interested in. But I think if AI could start to do tweening for animation, that's like this huge takeoff. Because, and I'm sure that there have got to be animation studios that are already doing this, because tweening has always been one of the things that is the most expensive and time consuming, and it's why they farm it off into Asia and whatever, because it's so time consuming and it's so labor intensive to do the in between frames.
Yeah, I could see that being very powerful. Like, give it 2 frames and say stitch these 2 together, and yeah, that could really make a dramatic difference, I feel like.
Efficiencies where we start to see reduction in cost, and then we can get more animated stuff, good animated stuff. Like, we recently checked out the Wheel of Time, and I always thought that that should have been animated from day one. It would have been better if it had been animated. And I know during the first season of The Wheel of Time, they did a bunch of animated pieces. And in my opinion, they were so far superior to the actual show. I'm like, just do that. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Just animate it, damn it.
Yeah, I will say that many times when fiction, like literature, is brought to a visual medium, it for me it fails. Not in every case. Like the Lord of the Rings movies, Peter Jackson did a great job on those, I feel like, but most of the time I think it falls short personally. But Wheel of Time, you mentioned that. So that's a show I haven't watched yet because I don't know if you guys are like this, but I refuse to watch a movie or a TV show or something if I haven't read the source material yet. And I have 7 of those books, but I don't have them all yet, so I haven't read The Wheel of Time yet. So
Well,
I
you're
need
in
to
for a treat.
get on that. Yeah.
They're great. We're big fans, and I love the Dresden Files. But I really like the idea of some NFT collections that are grounded in some fantasy world. So I look forward to seeing. I look for regardless of whether you get permission from Jim Butcher or not, or whoever his publisher is. I hope you post them because I'd like to see them.
Yeah. The collection I have going is more risque, I guess.
Chia has the tag for that.
It features female characters, let's say that.
Does the Dresden Files have a strong component of that? This is a book series I haven't read. Now I'm taking note on it.
Oh,
yeah, he's I don't know. There's some controversy around the character of being chauvinist, I guess, but in my mind, it's more chivalry, like old school sort of protect women sort of thing. But that, in modern times, that's not necessarily kosher, I guess. But anyway, so there is a little bit of controversy around the whole series around some of that stuff. But I forgot why I started this conversation. But yeah. There are a lot.
Because we were talking about generative AI and just
Yeah.
the fantasy take and whether photos were the right direction to go. And I still love the idea of generative AI helping us to have visuals for books, because sometimes all we get is cover art, because it doesn't get animated or it doesn't get adapted, and so you maybe get like 1 or 2 images, maybe it gets turned into a comic book, but that's rare. Like I don't think that happens much. Wheel of Time, I'm not sure if you knew this, but they did do a comic book series on, I think, a couple of the books. I don't know that they made it the whole way through, but there is some visual reference for at least a take on the Wheel of Time.
I didn't know that, and now that you say that, there are some graphic novels for the Dresden Files, so there's some art there. I actually don't own those yet. I need to get those.
Do your collection before you see it, because then you can compare it, see how somebody else imagined it.
Mine's going to be a different take for sure, because it's I've seen some of the artwork from those graphic novels, and it's more graphic novel-ish. Like, I don't know how to explain the difference, but it's yeah. It's
well,
a
if you've got a risky take on Dresden Files, then you're going to be filling that void that Miriam left, because
Yeah, that you reminded me. Yeah, so the reason why I was going into some of that was just that there are quite a few strong female characters. Like, I think I have 24 NFTs images at this point that could be NFTs. So there are quite a few good characters, female characters in that series.
Maybe going back to Chia's sentiment for a second, Lucas, unless you want to stay on this. Do you want to stay on this?
I mean, just to this, because I hadn't seen this controversy about Harry Dresden being chauvinist. It's film noir. I don't know that Jim Butcher is being. I enjoy the noirness, but yeah, let's turn back to Chia.
Right.
As when we're thinking about Chia sentiment, we've had some ups and downs. I think most notably recently we had, was it Brian Freeman, who jeeted his Chia bag and famously left the community and then started sniping from the sidelines after he had been the guy who did a bunch of interviews and hosted a bunch of shows
Yeah.
and whatever. That was kind of a turn.
That was a weird curveball to me. Like, it seemed like he was becoming more of at least a visual presence, and then all of a sudden he just, they did a 180, and that's where I was saying, like, that's why I don't have a farm that huge, is I can't afford to pay the energy bill. I'm not historically have never sold XCH to kind of pay the expenses of being a farmer. And I feel like if I needed to do that, I'm too far, I've overexposed myself. And so I intentionally have not done that. Like, I can pay my electric bill regardless of how much XCH I have or what the value of it is at any one moment. So those guys that go in super huge, I don't understand it. Like, do you think he really sold XCH every week or month to help cover his cost? Like,
I think that there is a component of that for sure, especially when you have a larger scale operation. Because if you have a larger scale operation, you've massively invested. And I think Michael Taylor's probably another person that kind of did this, where you put a substantive amount in. When you have so much into it, you have an energy cost that is non-zero, and so now you not only have an investment, but you have a monthly expense. And so I think Chia is better done when it's done on a more distributed scale and not these huge investments. But there have been these times in the past where having these really, really big operations have paid off in spades. And it's just not, this is not the time in Chia where that would have paid off. That was mainnet launch, and there
yeah,
were definitely a bunch of people who really, really had substantive deployments and made out big. And they made millions, and then they left, and then that was the time. And so it's harder to contemplate that now, especially when the halving has already happened, and energy prices around the world are substantively up. So yeah, I think the more you're exposed on this, the more you are forced into a position of, I don't know if I can keep dumping money into this every single month, and why am I doing that when the price keeps going down?
yeah. But I
I
do,
guess I guess another big sentiment thing that's happened recently was the whole royalties flap. That was a big one too.
yeah. That was a little bit of a curveball as well. I think. Um, you're talking about where it's like the community as a whole kept saying like they're guaranteed on chain, and only to realize that it's not exactly guaranteed on chain. That
Right. And the weird thing is it could be. I mean, it definitely could be. It's not a this is not a not, but it's a, well, the way that the puzzle was implemented, it just isn't, because it doesn't quite work that way. And that's a hard one to take too, because we definitely heard multiple times, and it was repeated, and it was a selling point of Chia NFTs. And to learn that the way that the puzzle was implemented, it's kind of a suggestion. It's like, that's not the way everybody thought that it worked. And I think that was a bad turn. That was a bad take.
yeah, so much even so that I don't think Tim or Monkey Zoo has done his space where that he's called royalties guaranteed since that happened. Like, he's had a space, but he didn't title it royalties guaranteed. Yeah, I don't know that I understood enough of that technical issue or whatever to speak very intelligently about that aspect of it. But yeah, I do feel like that maybe changed the sentiment a little bit. Um,
Yeah, and then we had the sudden hard fork. I don't know. We had a hard year in 2024. 2024 was a bit rough.
yeah, but I do feel like the current sentiment is hopeful. I think Lucas had said that earlier. I feel that same way with some of the financial side of possibilities that are coming up. So, what do you?
Yeah,
What's your take on
it's
that?
almost like we've had years, and each of the years has been like an era. Like if you were to look back, you say like, year one, it's the year of irrational exuberance or something like that. In 2022, it was like the burgeoning hope. It's almost like you could name them with Star Wars style. It's like a new hope, the Empire Strikes Back, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean, 2025, it looks like it's going to be the year of Chia. I mean, here it is. Gene said that they have product market fit for doing stock trading, and that the ACDCs are going to be the thing, and we're going to get gaming and like, L2s, and blocks are going to be full. So yeah, it's a hopeful year for sure. Like I think we're just
yeah,
looking forward to, the end of Q2 and into Q3 here, and we see some of this stuff come into play. I mean, we've seen that they're having meetings with the SEC. We've got the pictures. I thought that was a fun week where, it was Gene and Trent and Thomas and everybody kind of putting their own spin on that graphic. That was pretty fun.
yeah. That was fun. And you mentioned gaming. I do this, and I suspect that you might as well. As I follow the GitHub gaming repository and like have it send me notifications anytime there's a check-in. And there's a massive amount of activity on that, like especially over the last 6 months or whatever. It's been check-ins like crazy. So
Yeah, and it was fun to have Art come on and actually tell us more about it, because uh, as far as interest in Chia, it was one of the shows that we kind of had to sit up and take notice. We're like, wow, we're used to having somebody like Gene come on, and that being a very watched show. But when somebody who is relatively unknown in the world, and even unknown in the Chia world, comes on the show and there's a massive amount of interest in it, I'd say that there is a lot of interest in gaming. And I think that when Chia puts that out, they may have a surprise sleeper hit on their hands. I'm not sure why it's yet delayed, but there's definitely interest in what was produced there.
so is your take on that they've been spending this time kind of building the for lack of a better word, the primitives of how they can allow games to be built? Like, are they doing foundational work, or do you think they're spending all this time just building a couple games? Because I feel like it's probably more foundational work and getting some of those lower level pieces in place so that then others can come along and they'll have a couple games as examples, but others can come along and start building on top of what they present.
Well, they didn't make it in a way that it's extractable from what they've produced. But as far as what are the side effects of doing this, Chealisp has gotten so substantively better from this effort. It's almost like when Chealisp was first launched, it was capable of doing some things, but then when Bram started to say what he wanted to do, then Art had to go in and really put it through its paces and make it do some stuff that it wasn't ready to do. And that's why Chealisp has gotten so much of an upgrade. I mean, the difference between where we were in 2021 and the expressive capabilities of Chealisp and where we are in 2025, it's like not even the same language anymore. It's so different. So I'd say that's one of the big side effects, as far as it being extracted and being able to be used in something like a different game or some other incarnation, such as a canonical L2 or an ELTOO. I haven't seen it, but there could be repositories that are being kept to the side where they're doing that kind of stuff in anticipation of the massive amount of scaling that they're going to need for what's going to happen with Permuto, and massive amounts of stock trading that may happen on Chia. It's not there in the gaming repo the way that I see it. I see that as very much they implemented the thing that they set out to do, which is a two-party poker style game or a two-party, Wordle style competition style game. But I don't see how it extrapolates to something generic yet. But like I said, it's very possible that there's being something developed to the side that they just haven't published yet that will come of that, because I know that if things happen the way they expect to, they're going to need something as far as a scaling layer.
Yeah.
So Lucas, we're coming to the end of the time that we've got here. Any last minute thoughts, questions, takes that you wanted to get into before we wrap it up?
Well, I would just say I think we're in the year of Renaissance, or the new spring, to maybe take from Robert Jordan. But Steve, I'm really excited to see this this Dresden series. I love Harry Dresden. I love the idea of going there with some NFT collections. So
I'll DM you a sneak peek.
Oh, okay, great. I was going to say, but I'd also like to see it published. Publish it, darn it. That's what I'd hope to see. And thanks for coming on, Steve. Glad for what you do.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it. Thanks for chatting, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon, I guess.
All right, and we'll be watching for this week in Chia and the news that comes out. So we're always looking. So know that we're fans as well. But we'll see you next time.
This episode's going to make it for sure.
How could it not? How could it not? All right, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.